I was gonna make an onward review first, but I guess I'm doing this now. If you haven't seen part 1 of this, then I suggest that you do. It's the video with the best 3 eras. There is also an opinion alert for the next movies. If your opinions don't line up with mine, there's no need to get angry. This is surprisingly my opinion. I'm not saying that you're stupid for liking these movies. If you don't like the idea that everyone's opinion is valid, then you can file it in with the complaints department. My name is Animation Review, and these are the Eras of Pixar Part 2. This is the point where Pixar stops being amazing and starts being less good. It starts with Cars 2. Now, you'd think that with my opinion on Cars, that I would absolutely despise Cars 2. But actually, I don't think Cars 2 is all that bad. I mean, I don't think people do a good job explaining why it's bad. There are some very good points why it's bad. So that's why I don't think it's a masterpiece. I think it's just a decent movie, but I've got a full video explaining that later. I've decided I shall mention one thing, and if there's one thing I should mention, it's the score. I mean, it was done by Michael Giacchino, so no surprises there, but it's really good. I would like to give some credit to Jamboree, who actually did probably the best explanation, going into much better detail in about 40 seconds. So if you aren't convinced by other people's explanations, then I suggest watching this video. But next, we've reached Brave. We have reached rock bottom. Well, this movie, it sure is a movie. I think what they were trying to do was make this a proper Pixar masterpiece, but they failed to make the character likeable. Merida is just a terrible character. She says it's not her fault that she turned her mother into a bear, and gets no repercussions for that at all. I'd like to remind you that she didn't say, I would like a spell to change my mum's mind. She said, I want a spell to change my mum. That's literally what the plot hangs on. Some very vague phrasing. It's got also a lot of terrible humour that some people hate about Cars 2. It's just a mess. 41 out of 100. Moving on. Well, next we have Monsters University. And being honest, it's not that bad. It's got some very nice points. It's not a bad movie, but it's a bit on the fan servicey side. It's not terrible, a bit better than average, but not quite. It's just a little mediocre. But I'd say it's decent, 61 out of 100. That very short slew of movies was the declining era. Let's hope it gets better from here on out. I mean, it's fine, I guess. This era is the stabilizing era. It's an era that's not really bad or good. Like, for every good movie there is here, there's a subpar one. So it starts off with Inside Out, a true return to form for Pixar since the 2010s. This movie is great. It's got almost everything. It's got great characters. It's got sad scenes. It's a great movie, though it does have some pretty notable problems. Mainly its plot holes. Altogether, it's pretty good. It's a big return to home for Pixar, and I think it's great. 89 out of 100. Next, we have The Good Dinosaur. The Good Dinosaur, it's not terrible. People call it another low point for Pixar, but it's not really. It's better than Brave. It's about in the same pool with Monsters University, in the sense, because it's just a little bland. The character isn't extraordinarily likeable. The father dies somehow, but it doesn't seem to be that well stacked together. It tries to be sad for the sake of being sad. Had a nice payoff at one point, but looking back, had some key issues. Still nice, I'd say 60 out of 100, pretty nice. Next we have Finding Dory. Now, the common belief here is that Finding Dory is just like Monsters University in the sense that it's a cash grab movie that does nothing to expand on the original. But I'd like to say that that's not quite true. I mean, you can have your own opinion and all that, but I think that Finding Dory is generally a good movie. It's one of the more Pixar-y movies, and I'd say that overall it's got good compelling drama. The shell scene is a great one. It's mounted for emotion. It just can't be described with anything. The scene just can't be described. It's one of the top 5 scenes of Pixar. But moving on, I'd say it's 79 out of 100. Next we have Cars 3. God no. Cars 3! Third one of these things. Honestly. People say that Cars 3 is the good one, and sure, maybe I guess. It deals with the sort of thing that Pixar movies deal with retirement and stuff. I think the idea is a bit odd. How can a car grow old? I'd like to point out the character arc of Lightning McQueen throughout these 3 movies. That's right, he gets angry, the person becomes nice again, he gets angry, becomes nice again, gets angry, and becomes nice again. 3 times! 3! I hate his ranting in this one. Like, in Cars 2, when he rants, at least he's ranting for a reason. Mater was the reason that Lightning McQueen did lose the race. Or came second. Didn't win the race. And that makes sense. And Lightning McQueen in the first time was a bad person, so that makes somewhat sense. What doesn't make sense is his rant to his trainer. McQueen, you chose locations, you chose this. For God's sake, I think this movie is a whole lot worse than the first one. At least the first movie had a feasible character arc. Not a good one, but a feasible one. It was the same regardless stated plot, but made inferior. Hopefully it gets better from here. Oh, it does. Coco is a great movie. It's amazing, it's basically a masterpiece. Just does everything really well. It's got so much great emotion and it's got a great story. First I felt it was going to be educational, like the sort of thing that a teacher would put on in class for Spanish. Looking back, it's like, it's a masterpiece, and it's on my top 5 Pixar movies easily. It's really good and I really enjoyed it. 94 out of 100, masterpiece. Okay, what do we have next? Incredibles 2. Oh no. Okay, I don't think The Incredibles 2 is that good. I know. Unlike coming to this nobody expecting it to be better than the first, so, you know, makes sense, but it's not really good. These characters were previously complex and they've been simplified from what they were. Like, they didn't do much with the characters here. They've simplified them down to Dash is the kid who wants to get in on the action. Violet is the sad girl who's always whining about the boy. It's just a little subpar for Pixar. I'd say it's about 61 out of 100. It was fine. And the final one is Toy Story 4. Now this movie is good. I'm afraid to say that it indeed is a good movie. And the fact that it's Toy Story 4 doesn't matter about that. The movie is funny, like much funny than most other Pixar movies. Handles Woody's breakup with everyone else and going to the carnival really well. And one of the best ones that Disney has done recently. I'd say it's good. 81 out of 100. I enjoyed it. But aside from Onward, which I haven't seen in time, that's stabilising here. From what I heard, Onward isn't all that great, so it might not be the end. But I think that now there's going to be something like the revival here. Something that really lifts Pixar to its original height back in the late 2000s. But we don't know that yet. So in the meantime, my name is Animation Review. That was the Eras of Pixar Part 2. I hope you enjoyed, and I bid you good night.